Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
How are we going to do? What do you do? How do you solve a problem like Labour? Where's the party going? Yesterday, I think yesterday was the beginning of the end of the Labour Party. It pains me to tell you that, not because I hold a particular candle for it in its current form, but because I think this is a period in British history where the importance of a strong and robust opposition is probably more acute than it has been in my lifetime. And we haven't got one. We simply don't have one. Liberal Democrat numbers are beginning to look quite interesting. Great piece in the Times today by Rachel Sylvester about how they may yet turn out to be a potent political force on a scale not previously seen. It would be a sort of national repetition, if you will, of what happened in Richmond Park when Zach Goldsmith tried to, I can't even remember why he did it. It was about Heathrow, wasn't it, or something like that. But I don't know. It's too early to call. What I do know is that an awful lot of people tell me, both at work and outside work, that they feel utterly unrepresented in Britain at the moment. I mean, unless you are still buying into this so-called hard Brexit, this so-called no deal won't be such a big problem, unless you are part of that bandwagon, then literally you're out of the picture, politically speaking, at the moment. You will perhaps find an echo of some of your thoughts in what Tim Farron is saying, but with the biggest political story of a generation unfolding before us, and the leader of Her Majesty's opposition apparently unable to provide clarity and leadership on that single issue alone, you begin to understand why some of the more febrile conspiracy theories are beginning to gather weight. The idea that they don't want to govern, the idea that they are keen to become a sort of very, very hard left political movement that doesn't actually seek power at any cost. It seeks only the platform of its own existence, if you will. Tom Watson yesterday, for the first time in a long time, he is the deputy leader of the party that Jeremy Corbyn leads, and they are now taking bites out of each other. Okay, that gives you a perfect illustration of just how febrile things has become. To hear Tom Watson, a former henchman to Gordon Brown, described as right-wing, I heard it earlier today, is pretty much the most incontrovertible evidence you need that Labour is now potentially so far down the rabbit hole, there will be no way back up again. A Gordon Brown bruiser described as right-wing by so-called Labour activists means that party is in its current form finished. Doesn't it? Doesn't it? I mean, it just has to. How can you ever unite or sort of coalesce around a shared cause if you're describing one of Gordon Brown's former bruisers, former right-hand men as right-wing? How has this happened? I don't know. What's going to happen next? I don't know. Why are we where we are today? Well, because of that footage that emerged at the weekend about the founder of Momentum, himself a millionaire, because there's always a lot of talk about how, why are you always doing what millionaires want? John Landsman is worth a few quid. And the plan is potentially to go back to the rules that Neil Kinnock changed. And the reason Neil Kinnock changed them was to stop the so-called militant tendency taking over the Labour Party. Sheila Fogarty conducted a brilliant phone-in on this yesterday. I want to come at it from a slightly different angle. I want you to hear Jeremy Corbyn's response to the infighting and the viciousness that is sweeping the Labour Party. And then I want you to tell me, I hope this works. I'm going to clear the board. My apologies. Well, actually, we'll wait and see, because there's some amazing people from Northern Ireland waiting to talk about Martin McGuinness. But I do want to move along now. So I will play you Jeremy Corbyn speaking about his party's troubles. And then you will tell me, and you can call halfway through the clip if you want, but then you just tell me how it makes you feel. Can we do that? It's not historically the most fertile territory for me, this. It's too nebulous a question. It's oddly, the broader the goalposts are, the fewer of you come up and take a penalty. So that's why my job is usually to sort of hone in on what the crucial question is. But I'm going to do an experiment today, and I'm going to ask you a really broad question. I am literally going to ask you to give me a ring and tell me how you feel when you've heard this clip or while you're listening to this clip. So 2 things you need to know. It gives you a better chance of getting through to the programme than you would usually have during a political conversation. And secondly, it demands a degree of honesty that I will be really here to examine How does it make you feel? To which my first question will almost certainly be why. I may begin by telling you how I feel. If you want to spare yourself that, then ring in quickly, okay? The number you need is 0345 6060 973. Here is Jeremy Corbyn's latest.
Sometimes spirits in the Labour Party can run high. Today has been one of those days. That's because we're a passionate party. So I want to send a message to all party members. I want to make it absolutely clear. Members are an asset. As a party, we must do more to involve and empower them. I'm proud, very proud, that we have the largest membership of any left-of-centre party in Europe. We need our members to be activists in their communities, help us create the policies that will rebuild and transform Britain, and spread our message so that we can win power at the ballot box. That's what I saw in 200 of our young members doing on Saturday at our first political school held for years. They spent the day discussing and debating what policies and strategies the next Labour government should adopt to improve the lives of people in this country, and what they, as young activists, could do to help make that a reality. That's the spirit we need and already have in so much of our party. From the smallest branch right up to the leader's office, our whole party must focus on the challenges and opportunities ahead for us in our journey to fundamentally transform this country in the interests of the people of this country. That next stage is May's local elections. To win, we need unity, not navel-gazing. My plea to all Labour Party members, whether grassroots or in senior positions, is think of our people first. Think of our movement first. Think of the party first. If you're a member, please come out with all of us on the doorstep in these upcoming elections and help secure the victories for our party. Please also get involved as much as you can in our party and help others to do the same. With the clarity of purpose for that rebuilt and transformed Britain we all want, and with mass participation of our members, Labour can win for the people of Britain.
Right, go. Ring me now. Just tell me how that makes you feel. I'm absolutely terrified. 0345 6060 973. Sounds like the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang before he takes the mask off and reveals himself. Oh, my Lord above. A couple of quick tweets. Is this Watch with Mother? It's absolutely unbearable. And Ed points out that little chuckle at the beginning on the word today. The most insincere chuckle I think I've encountered since the last time I did some TV, and the director made everybody stop and instructed the audience to laugh at my joke. Vicky is in St Albans. Vicky, what's going on?
James, you've been my star since Brexit. I can't believe you're just a brilliant man.
Thank
You're
you.
my university every morning.
Oh, Lord above. Stop it. People are thinking you're my mother or sister or daughter. Carry on. What do you think about what we just heard?
Well, it's funny you mentioned it today. It came on this morning on the radio on LBC.
Yes.
And I turned to my husband in fury and said, I feel like I'm listening to Jack and Ori.
Yeah.
It's just there is no flame behind him. There's no inspiration. There is no power in that man.
Were you amenable before that? Could you have been won over before you heard that clip, or were you already pretty far down this road?
I'm a Labour voter, but he has just not, he has just not stuck up for the party. When Tony Blair did his bit for Open Britain, we all hate Tony Blair and what he did, but at least he had this strong, powerful voice. And when he spoke, I think we listened, whatever your feelings on Tony Blair, and when he speaks, there's just such disappointment. It's just...
What's the disconnect? What's the disconnect? Because for me, the penny drop moment, if I can describe it as that, listening to this, was that I think I now get it. He thinks we're all infantile. He thinks we're all going to completely share his worldview if he just keeps repeating it again and again and again in a slightly different tone of voice.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I just don't think he has the fury that you feel on a daily basis, I feel on a daily basis. I think he's just talking... I don't know who he's talking to, actually.
I don't know who he's talking to.
He doesn't get the feeling of the country at all. He doesn't get the feeling of the people that I know that are strong, really strong Labour voters and have been. And, having signed up when he won, and with all this kind of passion of Labour can come back after the last election, and just like huge disappointments, like the bottom's fallen out of the bucket.
The bottom has fallen out of the bucket. Vicky, I want to make this absolutely clear. I'm going to the news now. Thank you for your call.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's 11:30. This from Ed. Ken Livingstone was speaking about Corbyn this morning, James. It's apparently nobody's listening, and that's not his fault. Ed adds, poor Equal Party leader. I'm going to nick that argument when my radars go off a cliff. Radars are the listening figures that radio presenters live and die by, and mine recently had an unprecedented boost. It went up through the roof in the last 3 months of last year, but by the laws of gravity, they're going to have to come back down again. So that's what I'll say to the boss. So no. Look, the show is still brilliant. It's not my fault no one's listening. Oh, Lord above. The job of a political leader is to speak to every voter in the country. The job of a chairwoman of the WI is to speak exclusively to members. What does this sound like to you?
Sometimes spirits in the Labour Party can run high. Today has been one of those days. That's
Today has been one of those days.
I'm going to send a message.
Stop it. Make it stop. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Nosa is in Hackney. Nosa, what did that make you feel?
You're an asset.
No!
I don't know what your problem is. That's how that makes me feel. I hear a leader talking. I don't know what's your problem.
Well, okay. Who is going to be more likely to vote for the Labour Party in a general election or a council election as a result of that little speech, do you think?
I mean, as a result of that speech, if you really listen to what it was saying, it was talking to the people. And
no, he wasn't. He was talking to members. He was talking exclusively to Labour Party members.
Yes, and he's appealing for everyone to become Labour Party members. That's what he's there to do.
No, he's not. He's there to make people vote Labour, not join the Labour Party.
James, I'm going to say this.
Mate, he's a party leader, not a recruitment consultant.
He's not a recruitment consultant, but you need to understand this. The job of a leader of a country is to lead the people. His job is not to give us a 5-point plan or a 10-point plan or are we going to get the job done. He doesn't have a clue, and nor do you. You don't have a clue. No party comprehensively has a clue on what we need to do. The job of a leader is to present a cause for us to believe in, not to be all politically rich in sentiments on how to get there. Nobody knows. Times are changing.
Do you know? This is going to sound a little bit rude, and I honestly don't mean it to. But I can't think of it. I can't. Thank you. Have you got a clue what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Go on then. Explain again.
I've just told you what my opinion.
No, but I didn't understand any of that. That just sounded like word salad.
Word salad. What does that mean? I've just told you.
It's like a salad of words. It doesn't actually mean anything, but it contains words.
What does a leader mean to you? I mean, if we're going
to me, okay, you asked me a question. Inspirational, informative, brave, passionate, capable of igniting fire in the heart of people listening. That's what leader means to me. What does it mean to you, Nosa?
Someone who gives me a cause to believe in beyond my personal belief. I believe in Jeremy's cause.
Someone who gives you a cause to believe in beyond your personal belief.
Yes,
you've lost me again.
No, I can explain. But my personal beliefs could be subjected to my upbringing. But a leader can come and shed light on a belief that supersedes that. And that's
so what do you believe now that you didn't believe before that speech?
I believe that Jeremy doesn't comprehensively know how he wants to win.
No, mate, believing that Jeremy Corbyn doesn't know how to win is not a cause. You told me that there's a cause, a belief that you have that supersedes the subjective set of values that you were raised with. What do you believe now? What belief are you clinging to that you didn't have before that speech? Let's just play a little bit of it more to give your memory a little bit of a boost.
The Labour Party can run high. Today has been one of those days. That's because we're a passionate party.
Passionate.
So I'm going to send a message to all party members.
Party members, no, so not voters, absolutely, not British people. So what do you believe now that you didn't believe before?
You start from angle 90, then you take a circular view. He's speaking to his people at that point.
So hang on, rewind that. You start from under 90, and then you take a circle of you.
Of course, you start from your corner. You start from speaking to your own people, your family, before you then present your case to the wider public. And that's what he's doing. He wasn't speaking to everybody.
Right.
You can't speak to everybody, James.
Yeah, you can. I'm doing it now.
No, you can't speak.
I'm doing it now.
You think you are, but not everybody is resonating with what you're saying.
No, but everybody is listening to this at the moment from all different political views, all different political persuasions. If I said this speech, today's programme is only for Labour Party members, then you'd have the closest thing to a point that you'd have made since you got on.
Yeah, but not if you want to appeal. You can't appeal. You can only appeal to those who believe in what you believe. That's all.
And what do you believe? What do you believe now that you didn't believe before that speech?
What do I believe now that I didn't believe? That wasn't.
Is there an echo? There's an echo in the studio. Well, what do you believe now?
Your original question was how that made me feel, and I felt.
All right, do that one then. Have another go at that one. How does that make you feel?
How it makes me feel is I feel like when I go to the ballot box to tender my election or my position for anyone, I'll be voting for a leader. I won't be voting for a political position. I'll be voting for someone.
But leader is a political position.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Times are changing. I think we're now in search for leaders. We're all in search for leaders.
But hang on, you've got a leader. Why are you looking for another leader if this leader's such a good leader?
We're looking for a leader to lead our country. We're not looking.
But he's the leader of the opposition. He's supposed to want to lead our country. Why are you looking for another leader if you've got a leader who wants to be another leader?
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go on.
What's your problem with him?
I just told you.
No, but you
Okay, let me put it like this. My problem with him, if I have a problem with him, it would probably be.
Don't say if you have, because you have. What is your problem with him? Beyond saying he's talking salad, what is your primary problem with him? There is a man who's come on and he's giving us his cause.
I have explained at some length that I believe that my country at the moment is in need of a powerful and united opposition on a scale that I haven't.
What does that mean?
Well,
Powerful is
powerful means
plan.
Powerful means
it's not what you're going to do. You don't have a clue, and nobody has a clue.
Nobody has a clue. What?
Do you have a clue?
I have several clues.
They're all wrong.
What? No, I do. I have many clues.
You should vie for political position if you know how to lead our country forward. The way we're going to move forward is through public discourse. And Jeremy is showing that...
This is public discourse. A speech to Labour members is the opposite of public discourse, no, sir.
A speech to Labour members calling for public discourse, calling for openness, calling for us to remember what the cause is, which is to care about people, is what he was doing. And I don't even...
Why are you shouting at me? Calm down.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Let's have this kind of conversation.
That's all right. No, I got to crack on, mate. You carry on talking. I'm just going to talk to some other people, and I'll come back in a few minutes to see if you're still at it. You're a very nice man, though, sir. I love you like a brother. But my goodness me, that was an almost uninterrupted cavalcade of nonsense. Ash is in Streatham. Ash, I'm not going mad, am I? No, that was an almost uninterrupted cavalcade of nonsense, right?
I feel tinnitus after that.
Yeah, tinnitus. What made you ring? How are you feeling after that speech?
It kind of feels like I think he was at a wake.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But it kind of feels like it's the death of the Labour Party or something. I mean,
do you think he wants that? Do you think he wants the Labour Party in its current form to be over, and then it can re-emerge as a kind of hard left, glorified pressure group?
I just don't know anymore. I mean, it seems quite clear that he doesn't want to leave the country. I mean, this is the thing. I've been a Corbyn supporter since the election, since the start, and I've kind of followed him because I want a socialist Labour government in power. The thing I like about Corbyn is the fact that he's kind of re-established, Labour's social values, but he's just not a leader. That's why we've been giving him chance after chance, and he's just not leading. And then you try and say this to Momentum supporters, the hard left Labour supporters, and they just don't want to hear it. You just get anger and vitriol all the time, and it's just an echo chamber. You try and bring sort of balance and nuance to the conversation, and it just gets lost.
Why?
I don't know.
What is it? I mean, clearly, as someone who was signed up to the project from the outset, you've spent more time with these people than perhaps others have. Why? What is it? Because I hesitate to use words like cults or kind of blinkered or whatever. But why? Something that's so self-evident to you utterly eludes somebody like the last caller. Why?
I don't know. It's baffling. I mean, I feel like I kind of tried to make it a bit more nuanced and try to listen. Because the thing is, you sit in an echo chamber, you read all the left-wing tabloids, you listen to, you form your own opinions, and you listen to stuff that supports your own opinions. I've tried to listen to both sides, and I think you need to. You need to understand the other side in order to develop an argument to convert people over. I mean, if you want to get people to join the Labour Party, you need to have a balanced argument. And the thing is, you try and keep it balanced and try and talk to some hardcore Labour supporters. They just, and like I called on. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but
no, sir,
just nonsense. They just talk, and you try and speak normally to people and try. And this is the thing with Corbyn: when he talks, he doesn't sound. He doesn't. I can't imagine, a normal sort of average Joe getting on board with what he's saying.
And I can hear in your voice the frustration. To be clear, someone who wanted Corbyn to be leader and was four square behind him for the first months of his leadership. The frustration in your voice is palpable, and that's the scary thing, isn't it? That you can't see the other side of the argument. It seems so self-destructive, suicidal, and yet these people are still singing.
But he's not, it's not Corbyn or nothing, and that seems to be the attitude of a lot of these people. He's not the only socialist there is. We could always get.
Should we do this every Tuesday? Should we do half an hour every Tuesday where you just ring up and we'll just splutter at each other a bit? A bit like that, yeah?
Yeah, maybe I'll get my nerves in check next time. But
I love you, Ash. Take it easy, mate. I've got to crack on. Very, very important story. Cracking bit of good old-fashioned investigative journalism undertaken by Sky News' Jason Farrell. I'll give you a quick heads up and an exclusive peek at some of the revelations that will emerge on television tonight. The time now is 11:46. Of your reviews of Jeremy Corbyn's appeal to the faithful coming up momentarily. But before that, I'm joined in the studio by Jason Farrell, who is a political correspondent over at Sky News, but isn't here to talk about domestic politics. He's here because he's undertaken an astonishing piece of investigative journalism into a drug prescribed as a pregnancy test here in the UK that has, and you might want to hold on to your hats when I read you the next bit of this. It was used in other countries to induce abortions. Jason, how did your interest begin in this? What alerted you to the potential scandal?
So I was contacted in 2011 by a guy called Carl Murphy in Liverpool. He'd found a load of documents in his mum's attic, and he'd been trawling through them, and they were all about this drug. Now, he had deformities to his hands and feet, and he was really curious as to why this was. And his mother told him that she'd taken these pills, and she'd been part of a campaign group to try and raise awareness about the potential for this drug to cause damage. And he basically started up the association again, and we spoke a lot, and we looked at the documents, and we tracked down the authors of the documents and spoke to them, and they were still as committed as they ever were to saying that there were problems with these drugs. And we ran a story in 2011. Then in 2014 we ran it again because we realised that this drug had actually lost its licence 5 years before even a warning had appeared on the packet, and 8 years before it was actually removed as a pregnancy test. So in 1970 it had actually lost its licence to be used as a pregnancy test, but it continued to be used as such. So we ran a story about that, and then we thought about doing it as a documentary when we discovered more documents in Berlin, and these were really quite shocking, because what we found was that in 1975 there was a regulator who had contacted the drugs company to say that he'd done some research, and he'd found a 5-to-1 risk that these a woman who took these pills would have malformations to their child. And he calls them up and he tells them that he's taking the unofficial route. This is what these documents show. And what I'm telling you now is what's actually written down in the documents. He says he doesn't want to draw attention to this. So he's contacted the manufacturer, and he's contacted them so that they can take measures to avoid legal challenges. He doesn't say take this drug off the market. He doesn't say, we need to act quickly and swiftly to deal with this. He says, you might want to see how you can avoid medico-legal challenges. And then later down the line, the same guy destroys all the evidence on which his report is based in order, and again, this isn't me conjecturing, this is what's written down in the documents, in order to ensure that medical legal challenges aren't taken against the company. And what is so horrifically shocking about this is that he is the man and the organisation he works for is put in place after thalidomide to ensure that that kind of thing doesn't happen again, and he is there to protect patients. He is not there to protect the interests of the manufacturer, and yet everything suggests that that is exactly what he is trying to do. So it shows, first of all, an unhealthy relationship between the manufacturer and the regulator, and then we just look further and further. And the other thing the documentary will reveal is that this drug wasn't tested before it went on the market by the manufacturer themselves. So they didn't do any animal tests, what's called teratogenistic tests.
It's hard to believe this sort of catalogue of scandal. It's called Primados.
Yeah.
Will there be people listening to this programme now who may have been affected by it and not know?
I suspect there will be. It was the kind of where it was used is quite interesting, because back in the day you'd have a pregnancy test that was often sent off to laboratories. So in the 60s, and they actually used to inject the woman's urine into a toad. And then if the toad produced eggs, that proved that the woman was pregnant. And actually the advertising on Primados used to say, don't use the toad. Here's an easier, quicker way. And if you think about it, actually, if you're pregnant, you're worried about you're pregnant, one of the most sort of telling ways of proving that you're not is to induce a period. And that's what this pill would do.
Right.
It would induce a period. Now, what scientists have said, and what some of the research even showed at the time, was that potentially actually what it was doing was it was producing an abortion. And that's what we've then looked into as well. And some of these documents show that actually the same drug that was being used as a pregnancy test by women in the UK was being used by some people in other countries. And they found this specifically in South Korea. It was being used as an abortive.
Different doses, or
it looks like that they would maybe take the original dose, and if that didn't work, take a double dose and see if that would induce an abortion.
We're going to hear a little bit from tonight's programme. It's going out on Sky Atlantic at 8 o'clock tonight and on Sky News at 9 o'clock tomorrow. But before that, why do you think the spotlight came off it? You mentioned that you found the people who were campaigning a couple of decades ago, and they were still passionate about it, but they'd just lost.
They lost a legal challenge. So
right.
In 1982, they actually lost. They didn't get to court. So what happened was that they had as in all of these cases, you have a different expert saying different things, and the legal requirement for them to prove that it caused a link was thought too high by the people offer legal aid, and the challenge failed before it got to court.
And they didn't have a champion in the media until you came along.
They had a champion in Jack Ashley, who tried to, the MP tried to put together a campaign group back in the sort of late 70s, early 80s. But eventually that also sort of died a death as this court challenge failed. So a lot of what we look at is around why that court challenge failed. Now, I should say that we've had a response from Bayer, which is that the manufacturer was shearing, it was taken over by Bayer, and they told us, they didn't give us an interview, but they did tell us that the drug was on the market in compliance with prevailing laws, and they say the view at the time and after a full review is that the evidence was that a causal association between the use of these pregnancy tests and increased incidence of malformations was extremely weak. And they reject any suggestion that anything had been concealed other than what they call privileged documents. Obviously, a lot of these documents were company records that we've accessed through these archives.
Shall we have a...
Yes, have a listen to Linda Ramsey. So she is one of the... she's from Sunderland. She took a drug. She took Primados before having her child, who died 12 days after he was born.
When he was born, they put him in a cot to the left of us, and I asked the nurse, I said, what war is it, a boy or a girl? She said, it's a little boy, but he's very poorly. And I said, well, can I see him? And they brought him to us, just a glimpse, and then they took him away. Why couldn't I pick him up? Why couldn't I have a photograph?
You got some silly film footage?
Got some silly film footage because they said the flash might affect him. And I didn't want to hurt him any more than he'd been hurt, so I took that.
What's next? Where do you aim?
Well, we're showing the film in Parliament. Got quite a few MPs who reignited the campaign there. When we showed the film in 2014, there was a debate in Parliament after that, and Yasmin Qureshi, one of the MPs, MP for Bolton, she has been really pushing this, and they've managed to get an expert working group to look at it. So now the medical regulators, the MHRA, are looking at this, and they're due to report back at the end of this year. In the meantime, we've heard from the government. The Department of Health have said that they've welcomed our investigation. And so I think it's just about pressure and potentially, this group of people who've been affected by it, there's about 700 of them are part of a group. They have their own lawyers now who are looking at this and looking potentially to take a legal challenge against the manufacturer and also the government regulator.
At 8 o'clock tonight on Sky Atlantic, 9 o'clock tomorrow night on Sky News. Jason Farrell, that's an astonishing piece of work. It really is. Absolutely breathtaking journalism. Anybody listening to this who thinks perhaps they are part of the story, I'll put them in touch with you, shall I?
Thank you very much. Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. It's just gone 12 noon. Before that, back to this.
Sometimes spirits in the Labour Party can run high. Today has been one of those days. That's because we're a passionate party. So I want to send a message to all party members. I want to make it absolutely clear. Members are an asset. As a party, we must do more.
So Jeremy Corbyn yesterday attempting to pour oil upon the waters of the furious infighting and division that threatens to undermine the entire party. I'm not looking necessarily at big picture stuff. I'm looking solely at that little intervention. How does that speech, how does that little filmed segment, the tone, the content, the delivery, the deliverer, how does it make you feel? Ian's in Southend. Ian, what would you like to say?
Hello, James. I feel a bit angry about it all, that he's even had to do a speech like that because the PLP have just been trying to undermine him ever since he's become the leader.
That's kind of the opposite of what I just said, isn't it? When I said I don't want to do the big picture stuff, I just want to know whether or not you consider that contribution, that intervention, to be in any way impressive or effective.
It's not a particularly impressive speech that he's done now.
What's wrong with it?
I don't know. It does sound a little bit like he's talking to children, but I think there's an underlying message there that he's giving out to the membership that he needs us all to get behind him or get behind the Labour Party. Obviously, it does all go onto the bigger picture because the PLP are trying to undermine him at every step of the way. The membership has spoken twice and said who they want to be the leader, what direction they want the party to be going in.
But the PLP represents the feelings of the people rather more than the membership of the Labour Party does. I mean, pollings aren't infallible, but my God, to be 20 points behind the Tories. Do you know that they're even more trusted on the economy after that budget debacle than they were before compared to Jeremy Corbyn? I don't know what's the fashion at the moment. Whose fault is that? Is that the media's fault, or is that are they still trying to blame it all on Owen Smith?
Well, no, I do put a lot of the blame for the media. If you keep telling people enough that he's not a good leader, eventually people start to believe it, which they are now.
What would you point to as evidence of good leadership, Ian? Where would you? Because that speech really would have been a great opportunity to make all the people who think he's rubbish feel stupid, wouldn't it? He could have come out like a latter-day Churchill, or even a touch of the Obamas, or whatever it may be. He could have made a speech that anyone who subsequently responded by saying he's a bit rubbish would have looked ridiculous. So what were you going to point to instead? Because by your own admission, you can't point to that speech.
No, as a charismatic leader, he doesn't come across very well. He's not Donald Trump. He's not had training, and he's not a populist sort of TV presenter. But his policy.
Well, there's a hell of a lot of difference. There's a hell of a lot of distance in between Donald Trump and Jeremy Corbyn. It's not either or, mate.
No. But what I'm saying is Trump knows how to play the camera. Which a lot of leaders do know how to play the camera. I wouldn't say particularly Theresa May's good at it, but she's not probably quite as bad as Jeremy is.
So what is leadership then? If it's not the things that he can't do?
It's his policies, and what he's standing for. I mean,
But here's the thing, Ian. Do you not see?
The Tory government are getting away with murder.
No, I'm familiar with all of these lines. I'm not being rude to you, but this is why I'm keen to focus on this particular intervention. I've heard all the rest of it a billion times. So have you. I'm sure you've said it a billion times.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Imagine if, actually, you don't need to imagine this. I suspect you believe it. But for the purposes of everybody else listening, imagine that he did have magic beans for policies. He had the most amazing policies, the finest policies, the most incredible policies. Now, your Trump parallel works because he's not possessed of the kind of personality and indeed the pathological dishonesty that allows someone like Donald Trump to stand up and describe his policies as the best policies you've ever seen, the most amazing policies. So let's imagine he's got great policies. How big a part of the process of delivering those policies to the country involves his ability to deliver those policies to the country? In other words, if the message is absolutely incredible, how bad does the messenger have to be for the message not to get through?
Well, yeah, like I've admitted to you that I don't think he's the best.
No, but it's actually a question that needs an answer, because if the message is brilliant, as people like you believe, how bad would a messenger have to be for a brilliant messenger, for a brilliant message not to be delivered?
Well, I don't particularly think he's getting the opportunities. He doesn't. He's not on the media a lot, is he?
He's invited every day.
I would imagine. Yeah, some of it is going to be his own.
No, he's invited onto the media every single day. So there's no earthly way you can claim. This is a bit like them claiming that the BBC's biased against Brexit when they won't put up any ministers to explain why things are actually going great.
I'm not saying he's probably not got the opportunity to, but
so why doesn't he take the opportunity? Because that's the whole point about the quality of the messenger versus the quality of a message. If you've got a brilliant message and someone comes along and says, "Here's a loudhailer," why would you say, "No, it's all right, I'm going to stay at home and make jam"?
That I don't know. I can't. I'm not him. I can't say why. I mean, if it was me, I'd be on LBC.
So why do I speculate then? Speculate on why he isn't.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's getting a particularly fair run in the press.
Has the Daily Mail described his dead father as being an enemy of Britain yet? Because Ed Miliband made himself available for interview and scrutiny.
I don't know. I don't know what. I don't read the Daily Mail, so I don't know what they're. Only hear what.
Well, I'll answer the question for you. He hasn't received anything like the monstering that Ed Miliband received, and Miliband never ducked below the parapet for a moment.
He's been slaughtered in the press at every opportunity.
Yeah, for being a poor messenger, but you agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting his message across as well as.
How do you know he's been slaughtered in the press if you don't read it?
I read some of the press and I hear what's. I mean, I do listen to LBC quite a bit, so I do hear what's.
So I've got no beef with you. You're a decent fella, and you think he represents something that isn't being represented anywhere else. But if you listened back to this conversation, you'd effectively hear yourself saying, "I have no idea why he's so rubbish, but I like him."
Yeah.
Well, at least you're honest.
Quite possibly. I mean, you know, I've been to one of his rallies when he was standing for leadership, and what he said rang true every step of the way with me. I just couldn't. I can't believe the way our country's going at the moment. The Tories are plundering it, giving it all to the 1%.
Yeah, but he's been making that speech for 30 years, mate.
He may well have been, but I mean, how have working people been voting in the Tories? You know, over the.
Well, I'm afraid to answer that question, this is going to sound a little bit glib, a little bit gotcha, but to answer that question, you do need to start reading the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
You want to understand why people are voting in this country on an unprecedented scale to punch themselves in the face and consign their children to a worse future than they need to endure. You need to start reading the right-wing media more, mate. The short answer is, well, you persuade them to think that they're on the winning side of inequality, that they're going to benefit from the unfairness, and they'll vote for it, whether it's a mansion tax, a wealth tax, or of course, a Brexit that's going to turn swathes of the country into kind of sweatshops. They'll vote for it if you convince them that the inequality is going to benefit them. And you're an idealist, so you don't quite get your head around the idea that anyone would vote for inequality. But it's easy. Most people quite like the idea of an unequal system if they're on the winning side. Ian, take care, mate. Thank you. 12:13. Laura is in Cambridge. I was there at the weekend. Do you know, my thighs still hurt from climbing that bell tower in the main square, Laura.
Oh, that's good.
123 steps. You could at least pretend to be interested in my private life. What did you ring in to tell me?
Just I feel absolutely horrified, and I've had enough now, because it's just unsustainable. He can't come on at the time that the country is in, and with that kind of a statement, he looked like he was being held hostage, and it was like a hostage video of showing the captive. Yes. And is a massive difference, like that gentleman was saying. The penny's not dropped for him. There's a massive difference between what Jeremy Corbyn says and what he does. He cannot do. I don't even think he's interested in doing. I have seen a post on Twitter of an activist, a local Corbyn activist, in a safe Tory seat, I might add, who has basically said, yeah, look at all these banners that they've delivered from Labour HQ. We've never had so many banners delivered and placards, and they're out like most Saturdays. But what we need is people in Parliament making changes and forcing things to happen, not people on high streets on Saturdays with leaflets and banners that have been sent.
200 members at the first Labour school we've had in years. 200 young members.
And it is literally, members are king. Members are the only people that matter. And
that's the difference between a pressure group and a political party. You speak as if a penny dropped for you, which means that it was in the air for a while. So
no, it was never in the air. It was never in the air. But I'm really concerned that it's not dropping for other people. It's got to the stage where the country is going to hell in a high cart, and Jeremy Corbyn and McDonnell are just focusing on changing the inner workings of the Labour Party. That is their main objective. And the activists, many of them might be good people, but they are fighting a losing battle if they are supporting him. Coming on and putting a statement like that out, it is just absolutely woeful. And I'm not a member of Labour, but I have voted Labour, but I won't be again, and I don't think I will be for quite some time, to be quite honest.
And when you hear that speech, and you kind of, possibly even if you look at it, if you were doing it optimistically, trying to find somewhere to hang your hat, you just can't.
I can't. The way he delivered it, what he was saying, I only continued listening because I was thinking, what the hell is he going to say now?
Yes.
I wasn't interested. He was saying nothing of any interest to me. He was talking to Labour Party members, so he should have maybe just sent it out as an email and clicked it on as an attachment, because he wasn't speaking to anybody.
And that thing about the pamphlets and the placards is absolutely bang on for a lot of people. It really is. It's just before you go, Laura, it's Great St Mary's in Market Square, yeah?
All right, yep, I'll remember that.
All right, carry on. 12:16, a little bit more. Can we drop the needle on the Corbyn speech from last night? Can we do it in a way that you just randomly play me a bit that hasn't... Do we have the technological capability to do this? Axel in the house.
From the smallest branch right up to the leader's office, our whole party must focus on the challenges and opportunities ahead for us.
Yeah.
In our
challenges and
journey
opportunities ahead. How does that speech make you feel? And then I've got a little bit of Brexit fun for you as well before we hit the news. Jay's in Harrow. Jay, how does that make you feel?
I'm a Conservative, and I'm a Conservative.
You're a bit young, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 20. But above a Conservative voter, I believe in democracy, and I'm a patriot. And it is so disappointing that Jeremy Corbyn is the leader of the opposition in the biggest event since World War II. I mean, it just sinks my heart. We are in such a weird and wonderful time in British politics, and to have no functioning opposition apart from George Osborne for Theresa May in the Evening Standard.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just so saddening. And the best example of this was I actually had the chance to interview Jeremy Corbyn.
That makes one of us, Jay.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. Because it was for my university paper, which has a readership of 5,000 people, and I was the only one who got an interview. LBC were there, Sky were there, BBC was there, and there was me from the University of York with my student paper who got an interview with him. And it just strikes me as he only wants to speak to the people who agree with him.
So he didn't know you were a Tory?
No, he didn't. I somehow masked that quite well. But
that's a wonderful anecdote, actually. It really is. So you witnessed him deliberately avoid the media platforms which could reach millions of people in order to zone in on you. And I'm sure you publish a brilliant magazine, a brilliant student newspaper, but as you say yourself, you have a maximum readership of 5,000.
Yeah, and people were there, and all these people were trying to get an interview, and I was the one who did. And alongside that, I got an interview with John McDonnell, I got one with Len McCluskey, and the mainstream media didn't get one. And after the interview, because I was talking about youth mental health and stuff like that.
Yes, good for you.
He came up to me and he said, thank you for raising those issues. And I was there thinking, I shouldn't be the one raising them. You should be the one raising them to BBC, to Sky, to LBC, to the rally you're just about to address. It shouldn't be me, as a journalist, asking you questions which you want to be asked. It should be you raising them to the platforms which you have the opportunity.
That's a brilliant observation. So in terms of setting or following agenda, because people persuaded by Jeremy Corbyn's leadership believe that he's somehow setting an agenda, but you, as one of the few journalists in this country privileged enough to have actually had an opportunity to conduct a one-on-one interview with him, you think it's the other way around?
Yeah, and that's why, to be honest, the only reason why I think he chose me was because I said I was from a student paper, and I kind of dressed in a quite stereotypically lefty way, to be honest.
What is just out of interest, Jay? It's a shame we're going to run out of time. What is a stereotypically lefty way to dress, my friend? Were you wearing a Tibetan yak hat or something like? What is? I'm intrigued to know.
Just kind of stereotypical student outfit, but
what is a stereotypical student outfit?
Kind of a hoodie, a jeans.
So you were dressed like a young person.
Yeah. And he associated that with kind of...
He thought that you might be part of the converted, you might be part of the choir rather than someone who was going to ask him questions that he might struggle to answer. There's a great line. Michael Foot, during his heyday, was shown some polling by one of his factotum, and the polling was atrocious. Probably not quite as bad as it is at the moment for the Labour Party, but as bad as it had ever been. And Michael said, that can't possibly be true. There were 1,000 people in that hall tonight. They were bursting out of the side of the doors, and then there's something in that you remind me of. Thank you, Jay. 26 after 12. I'm cracking on only because I want to squeeze in a couple more people. Ash is in Chelmsford. Ash, how did that speech make you feel?
James, total, utter depression. I've been a Labour Party member since the era of John Smith. I joined sort of, when we were deep in Tory rule, which turned out to be 18 years of Tory rule. It's beyond all sort of belief now. I'm actually an activist. I do stuff for the party. I'm elected in a certain role within the party. And from the moment Corbyn got onto the ballot, the tone of the party just changed. And it changed to what they called a new type of kind, honest, open politics that was actually bully boy, aggressive, swear at anybody and call everybody who doesn't agree with Jeremy Corbyn as a person, as the leader of the Labour Party, call them a Blairite, call them a red Tory, call them this, call them that. And it's something that is... It just hasn't stopped. Momentum have got no other focus than turning the party into this pressure group. I know this because they tell me this. They believe that if they have the ability to put out a, not so much Stalinist, but a sort of Leninist, old school communist...
Marxist more than Leninist.
Marxist. Yeah. Marxist manifesto, that the public will jump at it. All the people that aspire to own their homes won't want to own homes. They'll want to sort of jump on this bandwagon, and we all want to live in this old school socialist state. They just don't get it, and the problem is, this was always going to happen. We were always going to find ourselves in this horrible place, and it is so totally and utterly depressing. I can't.
You really can't. No, your phone line cut out there.
lost for word, James. I think listening to you has helped over the last couple of years. Listening to you has helped because you are more sort of open to.
Well, I spent a long time waiting for. I spent a long time waiting for the drugs to kick in. If you see what I mean, this sense that there's something really powerful happening here, and I'm a bit immune to it at the moment. But if I hang in there, then I'll start feeling the influence, and it just isn't happening. It just hasn't happened.
one thing I'll say, and the one thing that highlighted it, and it was the day that Corbyn became leader. As soon as he became leader, I don't know if you saw on the news, David Blunkett, and David Blunkett instantly was getting abused by members of the party, telling him to bog off. You're not part of this party anymore. David Blunkett. I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And well, I mean, I started with the suggestion that Tom Watson is some sort of a sleeper agent for the right wing that's infiltrated the Labour Party and has done so astonishingly by being one of Gordon Brown's key henchmen. Ash, thank you. Wow, we may return to this tomorrow. Actually, there's a lot of people still waiting to talk, but.